Alright, welcome back to VHS Crazy. Today we're going over one of my favorites. You know it, everybody knows it, Psycho. Let's get right into it. Yeah, heck yeah, Stabbo Fest 100. It's Psycho time, baby.
Hello, popcorn delivery.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
Alright, so everyone knows Psycho, and so I'm not even gonna pretend like you don't know Psycho. If you don't know Psycho, why the heck don't you watch some flippin' Psycho? It's flippin' awesome. Okay, but this right here is the Alfred Hitchcock Collection edition that they were putting out back in, I believe, which one was this? 1988, the case says. No, 1995. I remember the trailer for the Alfred Hitchcock Collection on VHS. It was like all the Alfred Hitchcock movies on VHS. But this is the only one of the collection I got. And it's in superb quality, so I assume if you find any other Alfred Hitchcock classics on VHS with the Alfred Hitchcock Collection logo, little red triangle at the top, and the little Alfred Hitchcock doodle in the middle, then it's probably really good collection, remastered, looking good. And I think it's got, like, you know, North by Northwest, Vertigo, Strangers on a Train, so on and so forth. Anywho, Psycho. What a gosh darn movie. And I've said this before, but I think the two most important movies as far as horror goes are Psycho and The Shining. All the other ones don't even matter. Like, Psycho does everything for, classic horror. The Shining does everything for modern horror. Those are really the only two horror movies I'd say you actually need to see before you die, just to get a good grip on the genre. But Psycho, what a gosh dang movie. I've said before that Black Christmas isn't nearly as influential to the slasher genre as everyone makes it out to be, and I maintain this position. It really did nothing for slashers, especially considering it was released on the exact same day as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is totally flipping awesome. So anyone who says Black Christmas is like the first slasher movie or something, it doesn't have any idea what they're talking about. Neither was Halloween. It was flipping Psycho, obviously. Norman Bates, classic slasher. He's got the knife, he's got the wacky brain patterns, classic slasher. So Psycho obviously is the first slasher movie. It's kind of a perfect storm. You got a really talented cast. You got flippin' Martin Balsam in here. Martin Balsam, really underrated actor. I think a lot of people mix him up with Telly Savalas, but Martin Balsam definitely brings his own, really. I mean, I don't even like most of the season 4 Twilight Zone episodes, but the one with Martin Balsam where he plays the owner of the wax exhibit, I mean, that's just fun, because Martin Balsam's just a really gosh darn good actor, and it's a real shame more people aren't aware of him. So if you're into Martin Balsam, the character of Arbogast is a fun entry point. I like Arbogast. Who doesn't like Arbogast, right? Really underrated character. Definitely my favorite character in this.
I didn't think the police went looking for people who aren't in trouble.
Oh, I'm not the police.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of a perfect storm, like I said. You got Martin Balsam, Anthony Perkins, obviously killing it as flippin' Norman Bates. Anthony Perkins. You got it's based on a really good book by Robert Bloch, and it's directed by flipping Alfred Hitchcock. And I'd say the most important ingredient is that the screenplay is by Joseph Stefano, who worked on classic Outer Limits and some of the new Outer Limits. And as always, the screenwriter does not get nearly as much credit as they should. Most people don't even know that the guy who worked on Outer Limits also wrote the screenplay for this. And I think that's a crying shame, because I mean, half a good movie is in the screenplay. Anyone should know this. A script is really important. Like direction, okay, direction's fine, but the screenplay is really important. And that's one of the things that makes Psycho so intriguing. Another thing that makes Psycho very interesting is that a lot of the shots feel very modern by modern standards, like the opening shot of the Arizona landscape and the town and everything. It feels very modern. Same goes for the wide shot of Janet Leigh right after the stabbing, I believe, or yeah, after the stabbing. Just some very modern type cinematography that really makes it so that this is a movie that anyone will be able to enjoy. If you're a youngster and you're like, I don't want to watch an old movie because they all suck and this is in black and white and I'm only impressed by color, just shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Watch flippin' Psycho. It's the flippin' bomb, alright? The intro, of course, is really cool. With those lines are flippin' iconic. I mean, it's easily as cool as the opening to like Vertigo or The Man with the Golden Arm. Lots of cool, film intros from the 50s and 60s. Back then, film intros were seen as like a real, cool way to introduce a movie. Especially with like the James Bond series, which is why, it's pretty much the only series where each opening is like its own little thing, because that was started in the 60s. But the reason Psycho is really is totally awesome is those flippin' lines. It's so cool. Much like how, with the Twilight Zone, you got the iconic spiral, which, is kind of like hypnotic. And The Outer Limits, of course, you got the wavy lines to symbolize the wacky cathode transmission antics that are about to happen. And with Boris Karloff's Thriller, you got the web of mystery and deceit. With Psycho, you got those cutting razor blade, jagged edge lines of suspicion and pressure as the investigation closes in on Norman. The intro is just flippin' cool. And I think more movies these days need to have cool, cartoony intros like that, because it just adds so much to a movie when the letters like fall apart in cool ways or stuff. These days it seems like every movie the opening credits are just over a scene of the characters talking or something. It's really boring. So Psycho's intro is flippin' iconic. So one of the things that makes Psycho very interesting is, of course, the fact that none of the characters are really likable. Except Arbogast. That's why I like Arbogast, because he never really does anything wrong. But you got Janet Leigh, who's a thief and a liar, and generally just a scummy person. She's having a raunchy affair with a married guy, and just overall an unlikable character. And you got Norman, and he's a flipping lunatic.
You know what I do about unhappiness? I buy it off.
And then you got Vera Miles, who, pretty generic. And same goes for, the guy. I don't even know if the guy's John Gavin or John Mackin. I don't know who the guy is. It's just some generic guy. Like Alfred Hitchcock clearly, went like, don't even worry about these flippin' boring, just generic guys. Focus on the characters, Not flippin' John Gavin. I don't care about John Gavin. I'm here for flippin' Anthony Perkins, flippin' Norman, flippin' Bates, And I think that's one of the things that separates Psycho from what came before it. It is a character study of the main character, who's a psycho. There's no main character besides Norman Bates. You could argue Janet is, but like I said, she's also not a character you generally like. Now you have precedent for this, like in Strangers on a Train, where you have a similar character in Bruno, but throughout Strangers on a Train, you don't see things from Bruno's perspective, and the main character is just a normal guy, an upstanding, moral citizen of society, in a situation he doesn't want to be in because he's such an upstanding citizen of society. He's such a good guy. So Psycho takes all that, dumps it out the window, says, all the people in this world are scummy sleaze bags, and, none of them are perfect. Nobody's perfect. Live with it. And so we usher in the 60s. No more of that 1950s optimism. Oh, there's good and evil, and it's easy to determine which is which. This is flippin' moral ambiguity, a lot of gray in here, a lot of, deciding who's in the right and who's in the wrong, and what's right and what's wrong. I mean, sure, Norman's insane, but, you feel so sorry for him. He's such a sympathetic character. And Anthony Perkins is flippin' bomb sauce as flippin' Norman Bates. I mean, what more could you ask for? The back description here says, Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece of the macabre stars Anthony Perkins as the troubled Norman Bates, whose old dark house and adjoining motel are not the place to spend a quiet evening. No one knows that better than Janet Leigh, the film's ill-fated heroine, who is victimized in the now notorious shower scene. Vera Miles, Martin Balsam, John Gavin, and John McIntyre co-star in Hitchcock's most compelling and terrifying film, screenplay by Joseph Stefano. Obviously, a lot of parts of this movie get overlooked. For instance, the part with the creepy cop who tells Janet to roll down her window. He's freaking terrifying.
In quite a hurry.
Yes.
Especially since he follows her for like 50 miles or something, and when she's at the car dealership, he just like parks across the street, He's flippin' terrifying. Like, that cop is flippin' scary. I don't know what that's all about even, but it just makes the movie so much more tense, and it really builds up. Another thing I think ought to be mentioned is that this movie has a lot in common with the Twilight Zone episode The Hitchhiker. The scenes of her driving in the car and being paranoid and thinking like, I'm flipping spooked. It's a lot like The Hitchhiker, and I like The Hitchhiker a lot. It's a good episode. And The Hitchhiker's a cool character, and I like The Hitchhiker. So if you're into The Hitchhiker and Twilight Zone, you'll like Psycho. If you like Psycho, you'll like The Hitchhiker. Vice versa. The Hitchhiker's cool.
He was beckoning me.
And I like how in the 60s there began a trend of, women driving in cars alone. They didn't need a guy with them. They just, heading out on the open road, That's a nice trope, and I think it definitely works in The Hitchhiker, and it definitely works in Psycho. Both are really suspenseful. Both really build the tension. You just think, geez, these women out in the cars and flipping being chased around and constantly under scrutiny and spooky goings on. So, you can't just watch Psycho up to the part with, the shower, because, obviously that's the best part. And, once Vera Miles gets introduced, it's basically like a different movie, but, I think that's one of the things that makes Psycho so memorable, its unconventional plot structure. You start off thinking it's going to be Janet, and then it's Vera. You don't even really care about Vera, because she's not a scumbag or anything. She's not a sleazeball like Janet is. You spent the first flipping 50 minutes just flipping Janet, and all of a sudden she's just dead, and her sister's in here, and it's like, what the heck? Her sister's just out of here and nowhere. But that's another reason why Psycho is so good. In a lot of slasher movies, this killer just kills random people we don't care about. But in Psycho, Norman kills Janet, who's the only character we've been given a chance to see and start getting invested in. That'd be like if Michael Myers kills Laurie halfway through the first Halloween. It's a weird gambit, but Psycho took it, and it flipping paid off big time. Psycho delivers on the scares. And definitely watch the second half, because it's got Arbogast, and Arbogast, as I've said, is a fun character. Another thing I think Psycho doesn't get enough credit for is that all the shots in a car look pretty good. I don't know what it is about old 60s movies, but for some reason, whenever the characters are in a car, there's just like a movie screen projected behind them showing footage of a road, and it always looks so fake. I don't know what this was about. Like, you might say, oh, the cameras were too heavy back in those days. You mean to tell me duct tape didn't exist and they couldn't just rig something up and strap a camera to a car and have the car go out on the road? Like, I get that, you know, some shots might require, like, stunt driving, but, like, seriously, some shots are just, like, driving. You mean to tell me that you couldn't just put a camera on the hood of a car and just drive? You know, it's really weird. Because, I mean, you know, it just looks so fake. And obviously this was parodied to heck and back in Airplane, which is good, you know, people noticing this, like, really just stupid convention that serves no practical purpose. So in Airplane, they make fun of that, and I think that's nice.
And all the pieces on a particular mission.
But in Psycho, all the shots of Janet driving look pretty convincing. The interior shots where it shows the rain through the windshield were definitely filmed in an actual car. And the other shots, I think, are in front of a movie screen, but they look okay. Like, yeah. I honestly just don't know what this whole thing was about, because there's some episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents with the characters on driving down a road, and it looks really fake. So in Psycho, I guess they got the bugs worked out, you know, because it's a major flippin' motion picture. And I just find it really weird that, like, you could have that spectacular aerial shot in the beginning that goes right up to the window, and then, oh no, can't film on a car. It's like, you know, what's that all about? Like, even in a Mad world where, you know, all the characters are in cars all the time, they sometimes use this technique, and it just doesn't look good. But it's okay in this. I mean, I don't know what this whole thing was about. In some cases, like Perchance to Dream and The Twilight Zone, they have minimal shots of the road at night, and I just don't know what it is about the 60s that you couldn't film on an actual car and just tape a camera to the hood and film the characters through the windshield. You always had to just have this static car, maybe like with a little motor under it so it looked like it was moving, and a movie screen behind it. Just really, really weird stuff, and I don't know what that's all about. But the driving in this actually looks pretty good for the time. So I'll give the movie that. One thing that should definitely be mentioned is the Psycho-verse, you know, the whole franchise is kicked off. Rob Egger, whose videos I watch, he's a little too simping for the standard ideas for my taste, but his video essays are, they're comprehensive, so I watch them. His views are a little too conservative for my liking. Just tossing that out there, Rob. I mean, geez, you know, flipping Snowtown murders, I mean, come on. You think that's like social justice? No, it's just flipping murders. Has nothing to do with social justice. He has two interesting video essays. One is on the trailer for Psycho, which is good, because I think not enough people evaluate the Psycho trailer as its own thing. It's a cool, gosh darn trailer. And Alfred Hitchcock's a lot of fun to watch, you know, just any time he makes an appearance, a lot of fun. His other video essays, of course, on Psycho 2. And I don't have Psycho 2 on VHS yet, but if I ever see it on VHS, I will be sure to nab a copy, because, I mean, it's not directed by Alfred Hitchcock, but it's got Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. I mean, what more can you ask for, right? It's got Anthony Perkins as flippin' Norman Bates.
I own a motel not too far from here.
I don't know how more people don't know about Psycho 2, hence why Rob Egger's video essay on the subject is in his series of criminally underrated movies, which also includes Star Trek the Motion Picture, which I would agree is a criminally underrated movie. I don't know how more people haven't heard of Psycho 2. I mean, all these other slasher franchises, they got tons of sequels, and everyone's like, yeah, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Friday the 13th 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. You know, when are people gonna start evaluating flippin' Psycho 2, baby? Because it's got flippin' Anthony Perkins. That's all that matters to me. I don't think you could put Anthony Perkins in the role of Norman Bates and it'd be a bad movie. Now, of course, there's Psycho 3 and 4, which I don't hear are so hot. But Psycho 2 sounds absolutely incredible. It's got flipping Anthony Perkins as flipping Norman Bates. And he's so good. Norman Bates is such a fun character. I don't know how more people don't appreciate Norman Bates enough. Not just the movie, but the flipping character. He's a darn good actor. And, you know, his filmography doesn't go much beyond this, and there's some cases of him like being in a soap opera as like a hunk or something, but, you know, I think he works much better as just this like timid little milquetoast. So, you know, he's revealed to be this murderous psychopath. You never see it coming. You just think, Norman, he's just a little weakling. He's just a 106-pound infant who just makes sandwiches, you know. Such a great subversion of expectations there.
You've never had an empty moment in your entire life, have you?
Norman Bates is a cool character, and I think, you know, whenever I see a lineup of slashers, I see Chucky, I see Freddy Krueger, and I see Norman enough, you know. Where's Norman? He deserves respect, because he's flippin' cool. He's a flippin' cool character. Anywho, yeah. So obviously, very, very, very cool film overall. You know, this new show, Bates Motel, gets under my skin so flippin' much, because the guy who plays Norman Bates is the same guy who plays the Good Doctor. Oh, the Good Doctor, and it's like, not only is that show an offensive portrayal of autism, because autistic people don't have flippin' superpowers where they can diagnose any sickness instantaneously, that guy is just not a good actor. He flippin' sucks. So to have him play flipping Norman Bates, one of the greatest characters in horror history, just a flippin' slap in the face. If you want a good show about a doctor with autism, watch House MD. I mean, sure, he's not confirmed to have autism, but I think that's what he has, because he's such an unmitigated asshole. Bates Motel, what a shitty idea. Who needs a prequel to Psycho? Like, sure, a sequel to Psycho would be flippin' awesome, and luckily we have some. We got flippin' Psycho 2s through 4, and, you know, all of them have Anthony Perkins. I think 2 is really the only good one. And also we have the Robert Bloch novel, Psycho 2, which has nothing to do with the movie Psycho 2. Who would have thought the Psycho chronology is almost as confusing as the Halloween chronology, right? But my point stands, Bates, nobody needed this prequel to flippin' Psycho. Like, everything that happened before the events of Psycho is explained in Psycho. No, but you especially don't need an entire TV show made out of it. Like, who asked for this, and who permits it, and who keeps having these crappy, like, prequels, good properties that don't need a prequel or a sequel, and nobody even wanted it. There's no public demand for it. Who looks at, you know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and goes, ah, yes, Nurse Ratched. I need a prequel about Nurse Ratched's entire life up to this point. It's okay. It's a self-contained movie. We get the story before these events. It's just not interesting enough to make a movie about. Hence why the movie exists. It takes place when things start getting interesting. Why does Bates Motel exist?
This is crazy, Mom.
We own a motel, Norman Bates.
Who watches Bates Motel? Seriously, what is this show?
You're different.
What's so different about me?
I don't know, it's just a feeling I get.
So, yeah, I'll have to say that. Bates Motel freaking sucks. It's an embarrassment. If you're gonna make a prequel to flippin' Psycho, at least don't get the good doctor to be in it, because the good doctor is the worst doctor. He's so stupid. What a talentless hack. What a crappy sequel, or no, prequel, or whatever. And this doesn't even make, because Psycho 4, from what I understand, is a prequel. Like, this franchise was done with Psycho 4. It was wrapped up. It was finished, you know? Why didn't you make a TV show about it? What's the point? We also have, of course, that garbage 90s remake, which I don't even know why that thing exists. Who thought it was a good idea to remake Psycho, but just have all the characters be the 90s, and it's the 90s now? Like, who looks at Psycho and goes, oh yes, this is too 60s for me? Like, sure, it's set in the 60s, but if you can't just enjoy a movie set in a slightly different time period from the one you live in, then just, you know, gain some perspective. Like, only in the 90s, man. I mean, I don't even think it'd be callous enough to do that these days.
What I really feel is if you want to see Psycho, it's obvious. Rent the original.
Rent the original.
These days, you know, people kind of respect the past, but the 90s, man, it was just a decade of edginess. It was flipping Jason X, and I mean, that's when Jason X came out, right? Early 2000s. Anyway, so I mean, yeah, the Psycho remake, what a pile of shit. And to think, everyone talks, I've heard more about the Psycho remake than about Psycho 2, the actual good sequel to Psycho with flippin' Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. So cool. Why everyone like Psycho 2? It's a fun sequel.
Who is this? My mother is dead.
Psycho the remake is even worse than Bates Motel. Just a big slap in the face to Alfred Hitchcock, big slap in the face to good cinema, slap in the face to quality filmmaking. Just a shit movie. Who wants that? Who asked for Psycho to be remade, but just it's the 90s, and everyone's in the 90s now. It's not a 60s shower anymore, it's a 90s shower. It's got a turbojet. I mean, what technological advancements were made on motels between the 60s and the 90s? Like, seriously. Apart from, like, credit card billing, like, what's the point? Like, just stop. Anyway, yeah, that's a piece of shit. Anyway, the last thing I figure I should comment on before I give Psycho its rating is the treatment of mental illness, because a lot of people are like, Psycho is outdated because like, this isn't how mental illness actually is. And to those people, I just gotta say, like, it's not saying everyone who's mentally ill is like Norman Bates. Norman Bates is just a character who happens to be mentally ill. It doesn't mean everyone with, you know, split personality disorder is also a murderer. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some people without split personality are murderers. Anyone can be a murderer. Plenty of people have pled insanity after, you know, being convicted for murder, and they're not crazy. It's a nuanced issue, and I think, you know, just enjoy a flippin' movie for once instead of being like, Norman Bates is offensive. He's not offensive. He's a cool character. And, you know, if, like, I get political correctness, obviously. Like, Black Christmas is one of the most offensive movies I've ever seen. Absolutely not a feminist movie. And there's plenty of movies that offend me. Psycho's not one of them, because it was written by Robert Bloch and the screenplay's by Joseph Stefano. And these are professional guys who I think handled the issue with real nuance for like 1960.
They're probably watching me. Well, let them.
Another accusation that gets tossed around a lot is Norman is an offensive caricature of drag, but it's mentioned in the movie, in the actual script, that Norman is not a transvestite. He's just, like, this is the definition it gives, and I wholeheartedly agree with this definition. A transvestite is a person who dresses up as a woman for, kicks, to get some satisfaction out of it. But Norman does it because he's nuts and he thinks he's his mother. It's as simple as that. He's not a transvestite. He's not LGBTQ. I mean, you can say he is if you want and accept him as like the first LGBTQ horror character if you want. I think he's pretty straight, especially how he's turned on by Janet and everything. But, whatever. It's a more nuanced topic that I'm willing to get into right now. This movie is not offensive. You won't be offended by it unless you're like the easiest person to offend on planet Earth. I saw a video essay recently of like, all these depictions of mental illness in movies are garbage. They're all trash. And one of the characters in the thumbnail is flippin' Margot Robbie as flippin' Harley Quinn. And it's like, yes, that's a garbage depiction of mental illness. Yes, that is garbage. But then right next to her is flippin' Norman Bates. It's like, that's not a garbage depiction of insanity.
The fire would go out. It'd be cold and damp like a grave.
This flippin' Norman Bates. Like, you try and put flippin' Harley Quinn and flippin' Norman Bates in the same category. This is so stupid. It's not the same. Like, jeez. It's just not the same at all. Like, Norman Bates is a realistic depiction of a crazy person. Anthony Perkins is so good. You really don't believe that he could be the killer because he just seems like this mild-mannered little, motel owner. He's like, you want some sandwiches? Come on back to my room. Can you eat some sandwiches?
Yes, but back in my parlor there, she was very hungry and I made her a sandwich.
And he's so polite to Arbogast, and just such a good portrayal. And I don't think it's offensive to anyone with mental illness. If anything, like something like Gothica is more offensive to people with mental illness. This is just flipping, a crazy guy. Deal with it. Crazy people exist. Murderous psychopaths. He's a psycho. Simple as that. One more thing I think I should mention is that American Psycho is flippin' stupid. I'm sick of hearing about American Psycho. Seriously. One of the most overrated movies ever made. Not anywhere near as cool as people make it out to be. Also, Norman Bates is American, so he's actually the first American Psycho. Like, if American Psycho was set in like Norway or something and called itself Norwegian Psycho, it'd have such an unoriginal name, such a stupid name. I mean, I know it's not part of the Psycho franchise, but just a shit movie. And Patrick Bateman is so stupid.
My nightly bloodlust has overflowed into my days.
And Christian Bale is so stupid. How does anyone think this guy's a good actor? How does anyone think The Dark Knight's a good movie? American Psycho flippin' sucks as far as like, murderous entertainment goes. You want some good shit, and pop this in the VCR. Don't watch American Psycho. It's flippin' stupid. I mean, sure, it's got Willem Dafoe, but seriously, Christian Bale just ruins any movie he's in with his flippin' beefcake vibes. It flippin' sucks. American Psycho, toss that out the window. Watch Real Psycho, because Real Psycho is totally flippin' awesome. So yeah, that's just my personal advice. And you might be saying, oh, but those are two separate movies. You can't compare them. They're both about psychos. I can compare whatever the heck I want. I'm a flippin' adult. Go eat your crackers, little Timmy. Psycho, flippin' awesome sauce. One of the two movies, along with The Shining, you should watch if you want to get a good grasp on horror. An undisputed masterpiece, very influential on the slasher genre. First slasher movie, I consider it anyway. If anyone can point to an earlier example, and go ahead, but whatever the first slasher movie is, it sure as heck isn't Black Christmas. And yeah, I mean, Psycho is just flippin' awesome. You know, the shower scene obviously is everyone's favorite part, my favorite part. Who doesn't like the shower scene? Just because, I mean, Hitchcock was able to get away with a really brutal stabbing sequence without really even showing that much blood or nudity, which is a pretty, you know, impressive feat, in all honesty. So that's admirable. This movie really broke new ground, stuck it to the censors, said, yeah, we're gonna flippin' murder a lady on screen, and you're gonna flippin' deal with it, because it's the flippin' 60s now, baby. Anywho, Psycho. What rating do I give Psycho? That's right, 5 flippin' stars for Psycho. 5 flippin' stars. Oh, heck yeah. 5, count 'em, 5 stars.
Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears, and the cruel eyes studying you.
Anyway, that's been my review of Psycho. Hopefully you learned something new. If you haven't, sorry for wasting your time. I mean, I'm sure if you're as hardcore a Psycho fan as I am, you've already noticed all this stuff, but heck, maybe you haven't. Psycho is just one of those movies that it never gets old. You can watch it multiple times, and you'll have fun each time, because it's just the kind of movie that is just so fun to watch again and again and again. Halloween, watch it on, you know, whenever, just pop it in, you'll have fun. It's not to say that the rest of Hitchcock's filmography isn't really, really good. Like, you know, Strangers on a Train is also fun, but this is when, like, this is the ultimate, this is best Hitchcock movie, hands down, no kidding even. Like, if I was a pretentious film critic, I'd say, like, oh, it's flippin' North by Northwest, or no, it's flippin' Juno and the Paycock, but nah, it's flippin' Psycho. Let's be honest, it's flippin' Psycho. Best Alfred Hitchcock movie, no doubts about it. Anthony Perkins flippin' awesome. Norman Bates is flippin' awesome, and Argo Cast is flippin', triple flippin' awesome. That said, if you like this review, go ahead and write to Nicholas Cicada, 1424 Columbine Street, Denver, Colorado, 80206. And order yourself some flippin' Nicholas comics. It's a lot. There's some top comics. I got some fresh comics on the way, including one about a murder. So if you're into Psycho, you might want to stay tuned as I release updates about this new comic of mine I'm working on, because it's pretty macabre. Anywho, that's gonna do it for this installment of VHS Crazy, and I am